Named after the ancient African city in Egypt, Memphis, Tennessee would be the final battleground for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is Vernon Ash reporting. Considered by many to be a modern-day prophet, in his short life of 39 years, Dr. King touched the hearts of millions in America and around the world, and his legacy of nonviolent direct action continues even decades after his passing. Later, you'll hear actor Moses Peace in his portrayal of Dr. King as he gives an inspired speech of this writer's thinking on what the slain civil rights leader might say if alive today. But first, some thoughts about Dr. King from exclusive interviews with historical figures who remember the prophet and the times. These reflections in history feature the former Stokely Carmichael, now known as Kwame Ture, Minister Louis Farrakhan, Reverend James Netters, photographer Ernest Withers, and the Reverend Samuel Kiles.
And it shows that God has never left us.
That's the testimony of veteran actor Moses Peace, who for almost 2 decades now has marveled church and theater crowds with his spirited portrayal of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In his one-man show and in shows like the award-winning God's Trying to Tell You Something, Peace continues to resurrect the words and deeds of the civil rights leader. But what would Dr. King think today? What would he say about America?
Well, now it's been 30 years since I wrote you from the degenerate dungeons of a Birmingham jail. And it was 1963, do you remember? Right at the throne of the world's power center in Washington, D.C., I told you about my wonderful dream for all God's children. And then I heard the weary voices of struggling sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee, who, like Fannie Lou Hamer, dared to tell the dying world that they were sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that was 1968, when God allowed me to go to the mountaintop and get a glimpse of the promised land. And now, 25 years later, in 1993, communism has taken a hard fall in the Soviet Union, as America is now said to be exclusively the world's superpower. But you know, like I told you in Memphis at Mason Temple, today, whether in Sarajevo, Bosnia, Mogadishu, Somalia, Managua, Nicaragua, Baghdad, Haiti, or Los Angeles, California, the cry has not changed, it's still the same. People everywhere saying, we just want to be free. As we come close to entering the 21st century, I am yet saddened as I view the new landscape of America. I say to the first baby boomer president, Bill Clinton, you've got a big job before you, and God is watching you to see if your vision for a new America is just and righteous. The Kerner Commission in 1968 and other commissions before it warned about two Americas, separate and unequal. Yet in 1992, the beating of Rodney King by police officers, the record number of violent acts, and the attitudes of racial intolerance are dangerous symptoms of a sick nation threatening to choke to death from its own internal cancer. The report is that in 1994, we're more than ever two nations still separate and unequal, and the quiet riots are erupting in all of urban America. If nothing is done, and done in a hurry, to erase the vast hopelessness and despair of riots before they violently explode with all the fury and heat of an active volcano. I am saddened today as I see African American men locked out of the golden opportunities of these great United States and locked up in cold, lifeless jail cells with no hope for a brighter day. There are more black men in America's prisons than in South Africa as it today is on the brink of a bloody civil war. I'm saddened today as I see the life expectancy of African Americans decreasing while the income gap between blacks and whites is increasing. And then there's the gloomy plague of AIDS that some say threatens to wipe out civilization. And now opposing forces on the abortion battlefield ironically threaten each other with death. But in my sadness, I'm yet encouraged to see gang members coming into a greater understanding, realizing that their acts of violence must be transformed into a different energy that promotes life over death and benevolence over cruelty. I'll support their truce and new spirit of cooperation. So finally, today we shall overcome as I give you the marching orders for action in 1994. We must continue to strive for justice in 1994. We must continue to strive for equality and self-determination, incorporating those high values and standards of pride that the now admired Malcolm X talked about. We continue our struggle together with all the vitality, fortitude, and energy endowed unto us by Almighty God. We must continue to fight with nonviolence as we proclaim in the words of that old Negro spiritual, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around.